Hello Starseeds, this is my coup with Starseed Tarot. Again, we'll be doing a pick a card reading, and for those of you who are tuning in after the poll that I did on Facebook, the majority voted for a past life reading using tarot and oracle cards. And so here you are, we are doing a past life reading using tarot cards and an oracle card. And so, like any other pick a card reading, you just pick a pile and then go into the description box, click on the timestamp, and you will receive your reading. And so, for this reading, I want you to go into it with openness and using your intuition to see what message resonates with you. This is a generalized reading, and so again, use your intuition to find what message resonates with you. And before we begin the readings for each of the piles, I want you to just take a moment and just call upon your guides, your ancestors, the master guides, ascended masters, and the angels to assist you in delivering the message that you need to hear most from this reading right now. And so, if you have another way of calling on your guides or speaking to your higher self to deliver that message for you, you are more than welcome to do so. I typically like doing that as well, and I find that it's very, very helpful. And so at this moment, you can do just that. And over here, we have pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3, and pile number 4. So how I'm also going to be doing this is I'm just going to do these readings straight away without pausing the video. And so I'm just going to try and do that from now on, just to kind of get it along a little bit more fluidly. So as you can see, I'll be doing pile number 1 first. And your card for pile number 1 is the stag. So we'll start with that. Okay, so I'm just going to pull these 4 cards at the moment. And just to remind you, the reading or the theme today is a past life reading. And to be more specific, we are looking into what your past life was and how that comes into play in this current lifetime. Okay? So up here, I am gathering is that in your past life, you were someone who was a gatekeeper in terms of initiation into leveling up in either a spiritual status or a monetary or socioeconomic status. You may have even been someone who had the status that you had because of your spiritual practice. You can even see here, it's the stag. He's kind of blocking the way. And he's giving you a stern look. And so you played an important role of protecting something that was very sacred. Protecting something that was very sacred to the people who you belonged to. And not only that, you were someone who protected the people. You were someone who protected the people. But at the same time, you ruled over this group of people, not necessarily as a chief or a mayor or anything like that, someone with a political power, but someone who just had authority. You were the person who was a part of this council or some type of a committee that oversaw what was right or wrong. So people came to this council for their civil issues, and you were a part of that council. And what made me really think that was that this card also popped up. And for me, we can, well, as we can see, it's this gateway, it's a sacred way. And beside it, you can see that there's two figures carved into the stones. And so it's not just a random, it's not just a random opening. It's intentionally put together. This gateway was intentionally built to protect the home where you lived, as I said, where you lived. And not only was this your home, but it was also the home of a very sacred place, and so you were the protector of that. It doesn't necessarily mean that you were the group of people that you belonged to had a pagan practice or a practice that worshipped natural beings and entities. It could even be something where the people you belong to worshipped, some spiritual figure from the Western or Eastern civilization at that time. And so you played that role. You were the one who was a part of that council. You were a part of that council that overruled and looked over who had the right ability to access this sacred resource. You were an overseer. So that was the role that you played. And how that plays into this life right now is that we can see the archer is here. The archer is here, and she's guided by her two dogs, her two hounds. And she's about to make that kill. And that sense of justice comes back into play in this lifetime, but in the form of wanting to serve the people who were underprivileged or who had lesser. Getting directly to the point. Getting directly to the point and just wanting to do the right thing. And more than often, your intuition was on point. Your intuition, when you followed it, led you to the answer, the truth. And so even in this lifetime, you're constantly wanting to seek the truth. Seek the truth and be guided by the heart. So how this card comes into play with this one in your current life is that you're on your way to trying to discover how you can put this passion into play. You're very in tune to your abilities. You're very in tune to yourself as this person who's very passionate about doing the right thing. You're very aware. You're what people would call woke, right? Woke about how systemic oppression operates, and you're wanting to fight for that cause. You're wanting to fight for the causes that are meant to serve those who are underprivileged or oppressed. And so you're willing to do whatever it takes to be the best version of yourself, to help those in need. You're learning how to conquer those challenges. You're learning how to overcome those obstacles. You're learning about how systemic oppression works so that you can dismantle it. And you've known for a very long time that this was your calling. Okay. So, pile number 1. This is your reading. Now, I'm going to pull an oracle card to deliver you a message of how to proceed and to also cap off this reading. And this card that popped out is Soul Tree. Soul Tree, being connected, as I said, being aware to having this kind of instinct, this innate passion, and being aware of that. You being aware of that and how all of this systemic oppression works, you also are aware of the role that you play in this system. And you are very conscious about your presence in these spaces. Soul Tree is telling you that you are connected to everything, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. You're connected not only to the things that occur on a spiritual level, but also to the physical. You're rooted. You're very rooted and grounded, and you know you are divinely guided. As I said here, you're being guided. You're assisted by these 2 dogs, and these 2 dogs could even represent your spirit guides. They come back into your life from this life to assist you. And so, pile number 1, this is your reading. Thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget to leave a comment if you choose to do so. So thank you for tuning in. Right, and this is pile number 2. Pile number 2, this is your reading. The first card that came up for you is the Moon on Water. Okay. Moon on Water. Oop, there goes all your cards. Alright, so Ace of Stones, Foundation of Life, Transition, King of Arrows, and 6 of Vessels, Reunion. Okay. So pile number 2. I'm definitely sensing that you may have had a life where one of your past lives took place in a very, I don't know how to describe it. I'm kind of even getting like the conception of time. In conception, or during conception of time, like when the dawning of an era, like you shared that you had a past life in this era where things really started to turn around, where mankind really started to turn around. And I'm getting that strongly from this card, Ace of Stones, the foundation of life. You may even have been someone who was the first of this particular thing that you were on. The first of man is kind of what I'm getting, or the first of, something, the first of something. So, like in the history books when they talk about the first time, or, when civilization really started developing, I kind of have a feeling like you have a past life from this era. And what I'm getting to with this transition card is that you were well aware of just how quickly things were going to pick up, how mankind was just going to change, how that period of your life, things was just going to be different for the next few centuries up ahead. You're very ahead of your time. And I say that because I kind of feel like in this past life, you knew that all of these things, all these new innovative ideas, was a look into the future, and many people thought you were crazy because at that time people could only fathom birth and death, and that death was the end of humankind. And so many people during that time couldn't believe that that mankind could live on for another thousands of years. And so for you in this past life, you were there to witness the turn of the century. You were there to participate in the transition of humankind or mankind. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting. And then with these two cards down here, again, I kind of feel like these two cards play into each other a little bit more clear than this one. Because of this transition, the Knight of Arrows also is telling me that you were someone who was fearless, willing to take on the challenge, willing to go head into this big scary thing that people of your time was afraid of approaching. It may even have something to do with like traveling, a voyage overseas. Because time and time again, with your cards, water comes up. It's about the flow, going with the flow. And people during that time just not being capable of seeing that, of going with the flow, For them, it was a survival thing, having to survive to sustain life. Many people of that time could not fathom that their children and their children's children would go on to create these expansive civilizations. Whereas you kind of were ahead of your time, and you knew this already. You knew this, and you were willing to take charge and go head into it. And kind of even feel like you were being someone who was very ahead of your time. You allowed for, your own family to be a part of that, and embrace that. You would even have been considered very progressive at the time. And so that's definitely kind of what I'm getting here. And then with the Six of Vessels reunion card, in this life, it's definitely that in this life you're being reunited with people from your past too. And so you're experiencing a lot of deja vu, or a lot of situations where you're thinking, oh man, I feel like I've known this person forever. And those people have been the closest people in your life at this moment. They're the people who have been around you for a very, very long time. And in this lifetime, you're facing that again, this fear of the unknown, right? This fear of the unknown. And yet, these themes pop back up into your current life. Again, going with the flow. You have that soul team, soul support to feel confident about what your purpose is and what your role is in this current life. I think even having that optimistic outlook, you've been able to be such an optimistic person. You've always been an innovative person, even in your past life, and that carries through. You're constantly giving people reassurance and giving them, providing them with an optimistic outlook on life. Not only that, being optimistic has provided you with a lot of opportunities to grow either career-wise or spiritually or emotionally. So, I think this is all that I have for you. So, to kind of wrap up your reading, you're someone who had a tie or connection to like the turn of a century. Whatever that is for you, that is probably where that past life connection is, right? Whatever that time frame or whatever that era resonates most with you, like trust your gut, trust your gut about that feeling. If you feel strongly towards an era, a specific era, like the Industrial Revolution, trust that gut, trust that, you had that past life connection to that era. Because more than likely, our familiarity and our gut instincts is just a way for our consciousness and our higher self and our soul to remind us like, hey, this is a familiar feeling. Don't fear it. Go with it. Okay? So what I'm going to do is pull an oracle card to kind of just cap off this reading. And we'll go into the next one. Vesica Pisces, and what it means for me is a balanced heart. You're very balanced. Things is, again, just working well for you. You're being reunited with kindred spirits, souls from your past life. It's resonating with you. The souls that you are coming across, the friends, the people you are coming across, there's a reason why they're coming into your path. And it's more than likely a past life connection. And so, yeah, pile number 2, this is your reading. I hope it resonated with you. Feel free to leave a comment down below. And I will see you in the next video. Okay, we're going to go on to pile number 3. Pile number 3, your card is balance. Balance, you can see here. There are 2 dragons that are balanced. Okay. Past life and your purpose. Kind of what I'm getting here is that in your past life you may have owed somebody something. Owing somebody something. And why I'm getting that is because you'll see here it is like balance, right? Reciprocity, balancing out the other person's weight, balancing out the other person's income, balancing out like a favor or a deed. And there was a pact that was made. There's a pact that was made in exchange for goods, in exchange for a favor that someone did for you. And it may have been unresolved. It may have been unresolved in that lifetime, either because, you know, fate came upon either you or that person, and you or that person left the earth very early, and so you were kind of even getting the feeling that whoever had done the favor was a very skillful person. It was a very skillful person, and not only that, because this card is skill, but if we look at 8 of Stones, the stones in this deck represents the Pentacles, and the Pentacles is about manifesting materialistic things, creating things, being very good at creating things. And you can even see here there's eight of them, 8 stones that are being carved into these objects, these tools. You can see here there's 3 of the stones is lit with fire to ignite the night for him to create. And so this person who put this much passion into this project was unpaid for their services. And so I'm kind of even getting the feeling that there was something that was not paid, in that past, and you're having to be reincarnated to fulfill that. It could even be a pact between a friend or a loved one, and a favor was performed unpaid. And so in this lifetime, what happens is that you're having to reinvestigate that favor. You're having to pay that favor. So what happens is that with this past life, because it was unresolved, this favor was unresolved, you were probably even at an early age had a lot of struggles growing up. From the very beginning, it was an uphill climb. You can even see here, uphill climb. And an uphill climb, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you owed somebody something, but because, say for example, you're not paid for your labor, that it carried through into this lifetime. And in this lifetime, being born into, say, poverty, you kind of are just starting off where you left off in this lifetime. And so because you are aware of your environment and you're aware that, growing up it was very hard for you, you are well aware of the uphill climb, and you're trying to undo that karma. You're trying to cut those cords. And so what's happening here is you're well aware of the responsibilities that you need to make. It may have even crossed your mind about your current situation and why it has fallen onto your lap is because of past life issues. And so we are meant to be reincarnated to deal with these karmic cords from our past lives. Once we address them through spiritual healing, those karmic cords can be cut. You can no longer be tied to them. That doesn't go out without saying that even though you spiritually cut those cords, that you don't continue being hardworking. Definitely continue working hard and striving for what you want to achieve. And so with pile number 3, it's definitely that. It's definitely something where there was a pact or a favor that was undone, and now you're still having to pay for it. But again, the benefit in learning about these karmic cords is how do you heal from it. So a lot of the things that come up in our future lives are meant to teach us how to overcome them. Okay? Because if we think about our past lives and how that all works, we face them again to overcome them. We face these challenges again. We're meant to face them again. It's because each time that we're dealing with them, we become smarter about the situation, we become more involved about the situation, we deal with it better, right? We deal with it better. And so pile number 3, this is your reading. I'm going to pull an oracle card before we pull an oracle card to cap off this reading. And whispers. All right. So all those intuitions that you're getting, all those messages you are hearing from the divine and the universe to lead you into the direction that will get you out of this financial situation, listen to them. If it's not making you feel happy or passionate about what you're doing, find out ways to return to that passion. Find out ways to undo that karmic cord or cut those karmic cords. Listen to your intuition. Listen to your inner guidance. Okay? So, and I'm also seeing here, there's this DNA right here, right? DNA that's leading up to this light. What we often overlook is that we also have karmic cords in our ancestral lineage, and that is something that is connected to our DNA. And so we inherit these issues through our DNA. And so maybe it could even be that in your past life or in your ancestral lineage, that karma that was that the favor that was unpaid is also carried through in your DNA. And so listen to the messages from your ancestors to figure out how you can cut those cords, undo all of that. All right. So finally, pile number 3. This is your reading. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this resonated with you, and if you choose to, please leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next video. All right, we are starting the last reading, and pile number 4, you got the pole star. This card represents hope. Okay, I will do some cards. Well, yeah, all of these cards, the last one, so you have a whole soap opera. Alright, so let's see. Healing, Swan, Page of Vessels, 8 of Bows, Hermit, and Ecstasy. Okay. All right. So kind of what I'm getting is that let me see. Just give it a few seconds to kind of take all of this in. Let's start with these 3. These 3. Okay. Let's do it like this. Just gonna move this a little bit over here. I know this one's got a little bit of a glare on it. But there's definitely a lot going on. Trying to gather the sequence in how these cards came up. I think the interesting thing that happened with this pile is that multiple past lives came up. And so I'm kind of even feeling like in one of your past lives, you were very curious about the world. You were incredibly curious about what else was out there, and you ventured out to discover that. You kind of just had a life where you thrived. You thrived on just life itself, the meaning of life, nature, and everything. And so these are the three cards that I've kind of feel like represent that and how it connected. So you were searching for something else other than what you were born into. And so you were willing to take on those challenges. The Knight of Vessels kind of represents that, following your heart and your dreams. Following your heart and your dreams, right? Being guided by the pole star, the North Star, the brightest star in the sky. Being guided by that in the darkest of night. Curious about everything else in the world, not having a worry about the dangers out there. You were just fascinated by life itself. And so with the Knight of Vessels is telling me then that because you had this passion for life, you were willing to take on those risks, take on those challenges to fulfill that piece of your heart that was missing, that emotion, almost like very wanderlusty, wanting to travel, wanting to know what else was out there. And you found it, and when you found it, it was everything you imagined it to be. You imagined it to be, and you found home. You found your home. You found the people who you connected with, and you just really enjoyed life. You really, really enjoyed life. You enjoyed life to the max. Okay. And then the next thing that shows up is that you had everything you wanted in one of your lives. You may have even been a very spoiled person. Because you enjoyed so much life in this past life, that karma translated over here. You were then born into a life where you had everything you ever asked for because you had it so good. You reincarnated and asked the heavens to bring you into a life where it could continue this life. But as we all know, the universe and everything does not work that way. It gives you what you ask for, but with challenges. And so in this lifetime, you were just very unhappy with your life. You were very unhappy because you had everything you thought you needed to secure yourself. And so what had happened too in this life is that because you had everything you wanted and you weren't impressed at all, you became very bitter, you became very vain. You weren't the most pleasant person to be around. That's kind of the energy I'm getting from the Queen of Arrows. Vanity, and feeling like everyone was out to get you, and feeling like you had to protect that, and yet you were just really bored by everybody around you. You were very bored with court life. You were very bored from it. And so because you were so bored by it, you kind of felt isolated. The hooded man represents the hermit. You felt in your mind you were a hermit. You couldn't belong to society. You were just feeling out of your skin, feeling like no one can understand you. And so in this past life, your challenge was to find delight in everyday things, but you were constantly wanting for more. That past life where you were wanting to, you were very curious, turned into greed of wanting more, wanting to be more physiologically stimulated, and you didn't have that, and so you became a vain person. You saw your value through the materialistic things that you owned, and so you became a very vain person. You positioned yourself in social groups as the person who didn't want to be there, but yet you felt like you needed those people to make you feel at home, to feel comfortable, because when you were alone, you felt so isolated. And so now with this life that comes to you today, the life that you're living, you are definitely doing healing. You're doing healing work onto yourself. These 3 cards pop up, and that's kind of what is calling out to me, is healing. Healing from those past lives, right? Going with the flow, being a student of life, being a student of learning how to let things go. The Page of Vessels, the page of somebody who is still learning, knowing how to regulate your emotions, knowing how to be supported emotionally and spiritually, doing all that spiritual healing work in this lifetime so that you can live happily. You may even be someone who practices, because as you can see here, she has these tools in her hand, and she's dancing inside a pentagram. 5 of Vessels, celebrating all the healing that you've been able to do, all the cleansing, everything, and being ecstatic about how this spiritual journey that you are becoming aware of is calling back to these 2 past lives, right? Wanting to know more, which is where you are currently at, wanting to know more about how you can heal others, and at the same time healing all the karma that is being returned to you. As we know, if you are having to deal with vanity, you are also, and then in this lifetime, you're having to deal with letting go of everything, letting go of judgment, letting go of what people have done to you, and healing from that. Okay. So, pile number 4, I believe that is your reading. I'm going to pull a oracle card to cap off this reading. There is only light, okay? Even in your darkest hours, remember that there is only light. There is only light to guide you and flow into you, to help you clear those karmic chords and clear all that energy that has made you become stagnant. Clear all that energy that does not serve you. There is only light. Use the light of the divine and the universe to heal you. Alright? So, pile number 4, this is your reading. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this resonated with you, You are more than welcome to leave a comment down below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.